Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily for a Thursday afternoon. Jets back at it tonight against the New York Rangers. Two of the more disappointing teams so far in the regular season going at it, both well out of a playoff spot. Jets a little bit closer to the playoff line than the Rangers are right now. And a very, very important game. If the Jets have any intentions of making things interesting down the stretch, they need to bounce back immediately after that dud on home ice against the Anaheim Ducks and do it against a Rangers team that it's very confounding. If you recall the start of the season, I think they got shut out at home in like their first 3 games of the season. They sit last in the East coming into tonight's action with 60 points. But that's still just 2 points back of the Winnipeg Jets. They have the worst home record outside of Vancouver in the NHL at 9-15-6. And yet they're a winning team away from MSG. 17-15-2 on the season, and they have come out of the deadline with a couple straight wins. So, I mean, it's the Rangers' original 6-team lone visit of the year. Many people thought that there'd be a few more guys that are on that team that wouldn't be here today, like Vince Trocheck, that did not get traded. And for the Winnipeg Jets, we'll get to the clean line lines in a minute, but without any other bodies, it'll be the same group for the most part, and I believe the same lines. Will confirm that in just a couple of minutes, as well as hear from head coach Scott Arniel. Also going to get to a little bit of WBC talk. Shout out to Canada for advancing and winning their pool for the first time ever. The reward for that is the United States tomorrow. And I don't need to tell any of you that while we are all still smarting from the end of the result of the gold medal game, Canada, a big, big underdog against the stacked U.S. team. But wouldn't that be sweet if Canada could maybe get one back on the Americans in America's pastime? That game will go on. We'll touch on that with Remis coming up in a minute. We are going to talk quite a bit of puck, though, today. Really looking forward to having Scott Burnside join us. He was out in Milan for the Olympics. We'll talk to him about the Jets as well as the entire landscape of the NHL as we get down the stretch to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And then we focus in on the Jets with our pal Ren Dog himself, Sean Reynolds of Sportsnet, coming up on the show. Sergio Castillo is going to jump on a little later on. You're not going to want to miss that, with a very special guest on the program. And we'll hook up with Bolan Moss a little bit later on. Massive, massive night tonight in the National Hockey League. And there's always lots of scoreboard watching. But in particular, where the Jets are right now, looking at the teams ahead of them, the San Jose Sharks are in Boston to take on the Bruins. The Kings are off tonight. The Nashville Predators, coming off that win in Seattle, are in Vancouver to take on the Canucks. And the Kraken, who are holding down that final spot, could find themselves on the outside looking in after tonight. They are home to the Colorado Avalanche. We'll get to all of that a little later on when we hit the Cool Bet lines. But welcome to the program, and let's do this. First off, big thanks to all of our sponsors, including the great folks at Cool Bet, who've been our partners since day one. Of course, the Winnipeg Jets' final WST game is Saturday, April 11th. Would love to have you join us one more time up in the 300s. Go to winnipegjets.com/WST to grab your tickets for that. I also want to thank our friends at Princess Auto. We'll get to the Jet lines for tonight for clean line plumbing, heating, and electrical. The gang at Chud's Power Sports. Gimli ready for the Jetstown takeover next Thursday. We're going to head out there and do a show in Gimli. Should be a lot of fun. Of course, Uptown Alley, Rowley's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Manitoba Battery, the St. Boniface Hospital, Mega Millions Lottery, Akens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, Manitoba Building Trades, and the Manitoba Federation of Labor. And we will get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Welcome to everybody in chat, and welcome to you, Michael Remis. What's going on?
Hey, yeah, just counting down to tonight's game and just thinking, how different things would be if the Jets did take care of business against Anaheim. When you look at Money Puck playoff odds right now, dwindling 8.5% with a win tonight. They only go up to 11%. If a loss goes down to 4%. So, pretty important game for the Jets, and I don't know. I feel like season could easily have a different story if things broke one way or another, but at a certain point you are what your record says you are, and it's been a disappointing one for the Jets, also a pretty disappointing one for the Rangers this season as well, but all you can do is play the game in front of you, so I am looking forward to seeing how the Jets bounce back. We'll get another look at some of these young players for the Jets, Brad Lambert, Isaac Rozan, but also Elias Salamonson, who's played really well here since getting the call-up, getting some power play 2 time tonight. So some interesting developments on the roster. So I'm looking forward to this. And yes, a big slate of games around the NHL as it is Thursday. We had the 2 yesterday. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow night for Canada and the U.S. in baseball.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, shout out to Canada winning their advancing for the first time in WBC history. That was awesome for a win. And, unfortunately, because of the incompetence of the Americans and the management, not knowing what their situation was going into that game against Italy and partying the night before and playing a suboptimal lineup and losing that game, because of the way things shook out, with Canada beating Puerto Rico and winning their group, it's Canada-US in the game. And Canada's the 1 seed, USA's the 2. That doesn't change that they are a massive, massive favorite for that. So, great news for the World Baseball Classic, which has been a lot of fun. It will culminate Monday and Tuesday. But Canada's game is going to be tomorrow night. Let me just confirm the time of that one. Tomorrow, Canada, USA, 7 o'clock our time. And that one I'm sure will be on Sportsnet, so we'll tune in for that to kick off the weekend. We'll also touch on the Players Championship on the PGA Tour a little bit later on. But yeah, Remo, you mentioned Elias Salmonson, which is going to be, I mean, as we talk about with Murat, coming down the stretch, there is still a lot of things that, can hopefully come out of this. Some strong play and experience for Lambert, Rozan, Elias as well. And that will be a constant right until the final game of the season. And you mentioned Elias getting a chance on PP2. I'll tell you what I'm looking for tonight, and it's going to be the guys on PP1. Scheifele, Connor, Josh Morrissey. I mean, that entire group didn't get a shot on goal last game. So, we heard what the coach had to say. And we've actually got an interesting quote from Cole Perfetti that we'll play for you in just a minute. But to me, regardless of where the team is in the standings, let's see the top players, the guys that are making the big checks every week, come out with a much, much better performance than we saw on Tuesday night against the Ducks.
Yeah, and if you're going to the game, that's who you're going to see. You're going to see Mark Scheifele. You're going to see Kyle Connor. They're so good skating, handling the puck, the communication on the ice. It's awesome to watch, and none of that was there as Anaheim really took care of business in Winnipeg on Tuesday. So if the Jets, want to go anywhere, they need those guys to get going. They've been driving the bus all year. I think you're allowed an off game, but not great timing. They need to win pretty much every game if they want a shot at the playoffs, and having a game where your top players get 0 shots on goal, over 4 in the power play, you get outchanced, outshot. It just did not go well for them. There were some bright spots. Morgan Barron, he had 10 goals. I'm curious, will he see, some more ice time? 10 goals in a fourth line role without any power play time. I think that's pretty impressive, and you do see the speed there. Cole Koepke, I think, has come on here the last few weeks, and Brad Lambert adds some speed, but Murat mentioned yesterday he's got to figure out, how he's going to get to the inside and how he's going to beat NHL defenders. A bit different than the AHL, where, this season, didn't have a ton of success, not as much as he had his rookie year in the AHL. So The Jets got to find some secondary scoring, some primary scoring as well has to be there. But I'm not too worried about them, Huss. They've been pretty good. One interesting thing to note, Huss, the Jets based on rest this year. This was in the game notes. On 2 days rest, like they had on Tuesday, the Jets are 4-8-2. 1 day rest tonight, 18-7-8. So if you look at the analytics on Jets on days rest, I think they're due for a bounce back here.
This is the sweet spot. 1 day rest. I mean, hell, they're 4-2 on back-to-backs.
Yeah, remember when they couldn't win on a back-to-back? What year was that? Like over 10 years ago?
Oh, schedule, time zones, remind you of something. It's, we just can't do it. Well, they have right now. Bottom line is everyone needs to be better tonight, and hopefully the vibe will be better in the building. Listen, there was a lot of talk about the crowd on Tuesday getting a little ornery in the third period. I was a part of it. I totally got it. And the first ever chant directed at the home team, which of course was shoot the puck. I thought Cole Perfetti had a really, really good response yesterday when asked about the reaction from players when that sort of thing happens in your own building. Here's what Cole had to say to that, and then we put Tuesday night to bed.
I mean, yeah, obviously our fans are fantastic, and they're so passionate, and they obviously want us to do so well, and we want to do well for them. And in a game like last night where we didn't create much, they're coming out and supporting us still, and we didn't give them much of a show. Obviously, it sucks when they're cheering when we get a shot on net. It's not it's not what we want to give for them. It's not how we want to play, and obviously it got to a point where must not have been very fun for them to watch if they're cheering for us to get a shot on net. So it's embarrassing a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're passionate. They're wanting us to do well, and we want to do well for them. So they show up for us every night, and hopefully tomorrow night we can give them a much better performance to cheer about.
All right, so there's Cole Perfetti. I thought he handled that very well, and it's true. It wasn't a fun night in the building, I think, for anybody. Hopefully tonight will be different from that. Let's get to the lines for our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, your one-stop shop for both commercial and residential plumbing, heating, and electrical projects here in Manitoba. To quote our old pal Tom Halleck from Assiniboia Downs Ream, there are no changes. Shifley, Connor, Velarde, Perfetti, Lowry, Iafallo, Rosine with Taves and Nyquist, Brad Lambert with Morgan Barrett and Cole Koepke, Josh Morrissey, Dylan DeMello, Sandberg and Salo, Fleury and Bryson. And looks like Helly is going to get run out again for this matchup against the New York Rangers. I have seen some folks in the chat as well as on social media going like, what are we doing here after a game like that? You don't change anything up. Particularly for the forwards, this is their complement of healthy forwards right now. So, full disclosure, I would be more than happy after last night's game to shake things up a little bit. I'd love to see Rosine play with either the Lowry line or, dare we say it, even the Shifley line for a little bit. Hopefully that'll happen at some point. But at least right now, they're staying the course with this group, and that is the way things will at least start tonight for the Jets against the New York Rangers. Let's hear from the coach, Scott Arniel. He spoke earlier this morning, and here's what he wants to see from his hockey club tonight.
Yeah, there's just one thing, Hester. I had the wrong. It's Connor Shifley, Iafallo, Perfetti, Lowry, Velarde.
Okay.
From practice. So, I mean, that's kind of just what they've done.
That's just the switch. It's been Iafallo, Velarde, Velarde, Iafallo. They've sort of gone back and forth over these last couple of games. The bottom six is intact. And if things don't go well or the team's chasing the game, you can count on Gabriel Velarde moving back up to the top line and Alex Iafallo playing with Perfetti and Lowry, barring maybe some shakeup happening overall. But let's get to the coach, Scott Arniel, talked about, this game tonight and what he's looking for from his club coming out of Tuesday.
Just get back to doing what we were doing prior to that Anaheim game. We were fast. We were, we were hard to play against. We were, doing a lot of good things when we didn't have the puck. That was closing quick to get it back. And then offensively, we were doing a real good job of playing fast and attacking the net. So it's not like we haven't done it in a while. We had that one the other night, like you said, we've moved on from it and get back to playing how we were playing recently, and make sure that we do what we have to do tonight against the Rangers.
Yeah, pretty clear that Scott Arniel, wants to just move on from Tuesday and, get back to, the fact that they were getting some results. I mean, I still think there's another level for this team. There's about 10 levels from what we saw Tuesday night. But bottom line is they got to come out top to bottom with a much better performance. And if they do that, we'll have a good chance of winning a hockey game against a Rangers team that has struggled, although they have won a couple coming out of the break. We mentioned Elias Salmonson. The one kind of line change, if you will, that doesn't show on the 5-on-5 is Elias Salmonson getting a little opportunity on PP2. Here's what the coach has to say on that move.
I know we're going to throw him in there tonight. Obviously, the right shot kind of has a different look to it. So, he's done a fantastic job on all the roles we've kind of thrown at him. He's a real heady kid, and we've just offensively we've seen kind of a nice touch to him. He's not afraid to get that shot off, as we saw on Barron's goal the other night. He gets it off, and he gets it off quick, and so maybe that's something that he can add to that second power play.
All right, there's Scott Arniel. Now, Remo, there is a big milestone tonight. Dylan DeMello playing game number 700 in the NHL.
Yeah, congratulations to him. A 6th-round pick, 179th overall by the San Jose Sharks. Was involved in the Erik Karlsson trade, went to Ottawa, and now has Dylan DeMello. This is his 7th season with the Winnipeg Jets. Feels like they just traded for him at the deadline, but no, that was in 2020. Crazy. So yeah, he signed a couple contracts here. Big part of the organization, been a mainstay with Josh Morrissey on that top pair. He's at 699 games plus 41 playoff games as well. Majority of those with the Jets. So congratulations to him. Huss, a big accomplishment.
Here's Scott Arniel on DeMello hitting 700 tonight.
Starting 4 years ago, coming in, not really know him other than coaching against him, and then being able to work with him every day. He's a real veteran guy. Takes his job very seriously every day, and he takes a lot of pride in going against the other team's best lines. I mean, I don't know if he was, prior to that, I don't want to say anything wrong or against him in the sense, I don't know if he was in a top 4 role, top 2 role prior to that, and coming in here now with JMO and they're going head to head against the best, the opposition's best. He's been doing it 4 years, and he's always a plus player. He's always on the right side of things, and adding to the penalty kill. Had a career year in goals a couple years ago, and just his consistency. And that's, like I said, when all these guys hit these numbers, it's because of how consistent they are with their game. It's the one thing that you try to kind of talk to young players about getting consistency in it, because once you do, then you're reliable every single night, and that's what Mel is. He's real reliable.
What's the hardest thing about consistency from your point of view?
It's both physical and mental. It's a grind. 82 games can be a grind. You have to get up every day, whether it's practice, travel, whatever the scenarios might be, injuries, bumps and bruises. You got to kind of get yourself up and going again, and doing it each and every shift. Once you figure out what it is that you do well, and then continually do it every single game. It's not something that you're up and down on. You're consistent with it.
All right, so there's Coach Scott Arniel from this morning, and just before we move past the morning, Dylan DeMello was, of course, asked on about tonight, and if he ever thought getting picked in the 6th round that he'd get to 700 in the show.
No, not every day, that's for sure. There were some days you feel like you can play 1,500 games when things are going well, and when things aren't going well, you think, oh no, I might not be in the league very long. So, when you kind of look back at it in the road, it's been obviously a lot of fun, some ups and downs, but definitely wouldn't trade it for anything, and definitely 700 games is an awesome accomplishment, so I'm proud of it. Not satisfied. Hopefully, can play a lot more and continue to enjoy living my dream every day.
All right, so there's Dylan DeMello. I'm sure he'll get a nice round of applause tonight when he's recognized for 700 on home ice as the Jets take on the New York Rangers. Interesting, we haven't seen the Rangers this year, Remo. Last time these two teams played was about a year ago, I think, on the almost to the day, the 11th of March, which was a 2-1 win by the Winnipeg Jets over the Rangers. And they'll head out to MSG, not next weekend, but the following weekend. I think that game is an 11 a.m. Winnipeg time game, noon puck drop at MSG. But the Rangers have been a confounding team this year. I mean, they added JT Miller. Many people thought that this would be a team that would be competing for the top of the East after a down year last year, but that has not happened at all, and they find themselves at the bottom of the Eastern Conference coming into tonight's game, and one of the the second worst home record of the National Hockey League, although the team that's been able to get wins on the road.
Yeah, and the Rangers, first of all, the Jets I see Phyllis in chat says the Jets do well against the Rangers, 4-0-1 in their last 5 meetings, and Mark Scheifele, how about this, 15 goals in 20 career games against the Rangers. I remember a couple of those games at Madison Square Garden where he really stepped up. And you look at this Rangers roster post-trade deadline. Did not trade Vincent Trocheck as his name was being floated around over and over again by insiders. And you look at this lineup, a lot of who are these guys in here. And then they do have some young guys in here, like Gabe Perreault on the top line with Zibanejad and Lafreniere. But, I mean, you look at throughout this lineup and not a lot of household names here, and they are in the bottom of the league. So if the Winnipeg Jets do want to keep any faint playoff hopes alive, 2 games against the Rangers in March here this month. The next meeting is, I had it here, later this month in Madison Square Garden.
Sunday.
A week Sunday.
So, that 11 a.m. game.
The back-to-back with Penguins Saturday, correct?
Yeah, so, the Penguins game is a noon game, Winnipeg time on the Saturday. And then the Sunday, the Ranger game is 11 a.m. So if you got kids and you like watching the games,
yes,
you got your weekend planned. Not this weekend. It's actually, now that I think about it, I guess we're now into matinee, the point of the season, because the Jets going back to back in the afternoon this weekend at home with 3:00 game on Saturday against the Avs, 2:00 against the Blues. And then, of course, the St. Patrick's Day game is against Nashville next Tuesday. That's the end of the 8-game homestand. And then head out Boston on the 19th. That's the big day for Gimli with the town takeover. And then noon on the Saturday the 21st and 11 a.m. on the 22nd. That game on the 22nd, the rematch between these two teams. No JT Miller tonight. He's on the IR. And I was looking where big Matt Remke is. Rempe, the other injured player for the New York Rangers. Shesterkin and Quick, the goaltenders. Do we have a starter yet for tonight, Reem?
I thought it was Shesterkin, but let me just confirm. Yeah, Shesterkin, Molly Walker, putting that one out on X.
Well, 2 of the best goalies going head-to-head, the best goalies in the world going head-to-head tonight with Hellebuck for Winnipeg and Shesterkin for the New York Rangers. All right, we're going to bring in our good friend Scott Burnside. It's been a minute since we've talked to Burnsy. He's been, of course, covering the National Hockey League for a long time and always keeps an eye on the Winnipeg Jets because, of course, he, for a long time, was headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, following the Thrashers before they came here to Winnipeg. But Scott Burnside coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk next.
Hey, Bob, you hear the news?
I can't listen to the news, Daryl.
This is different.
Oh, it's so negative.
Not this time. Manitoba's got these new jobs agreements. And when the government builds things like new schools and hospitals, they'll hire Manitoba workers first.
Really?
Creating good jobs with union standards and more apprenticeships for Manitobans. And we'll get rid of those out-of-province license plates on job sites.
Keeping our money working for Manitobans, eh?
You betcha.
Well, that's how it should work.
I knew you'd like it.
A message from Manitoba's Building Trades and Federation of Labor.
Got a little chilly the last couple days when it is cold. Actually, anytime. If you're looking to go out for a great time, maybe get away from hockey, your sour taste about the Olympics, Uptown Alley, a great spot to do that. No place you'll have more fun than Uptown Alley with your gang, with 5 and 10 pin bowling, laser tag, a state-of-the-art arcade, and amazing food and beverage options. If you're just going out there to have a good time or you want to plan a group or corporate event, best place for birthday parties for kids, teens, or adults. And of course, if you want to do an event there, you basically just let them know your numbers, what activities you want to do, what you want to eat, any add-ons, and the friendly staff at Uptown will take care of all the rest. Find out more on booking your next event at Uptown Alley at 488-0000 or check them out online at uptownalley.ca. If you've got a move coming up into the spring and summer, holler at the gang over at Rolly's Transfer, a great supporter of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Rolly's is family-owned and operator for over 60 years and the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba. If you check out their website at rollys.com, top right corner, you'll click on Request an Estimate. Use that promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to go, and their friendly staff will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that they've been famous for now into their 7th decade. Rolly's Transfer, the most trusted name in the moving game. Find out more today and plan ahead at rollys.com. And just before we bring in Brandon, got to shout out Dr. Terry and the great people over at St. Vital Dental Center. It's not the most glamorous thing or the thing you're looking most forward to, but I can tell you it's always nice seeing the great people at St. Vital Dental Center. And they've been taking care of generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans for all their dental needs, handling clients from 6 months to 99 plus with the full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to surgeries like dental implants. They do it all. Check them out online at stvitaldental.ca. You can make an appointment online to pop by and see Dr. Terry and his great staff. New spot, 167 St. Anne's Road, convenient free parking right behind the building. Big thanks for the support from the St. Vital Dental Center. Huge slate in the NHL tonight. Who better to talk about it with than our old pal Scott Burnside? You can check out all of his work online at Burnside on Hockey. And also just came back from the Olympic Games. Scott, what's going on? It's great to talk to you again.
Oh my gosh, it feels like it's been a minute or two, but always happy to hop on and talk a little hockey. And yeah, I as we were chatting just before we started taping, it was my 4th Olympic Games in Milan. Was doing some stuff for the NHLPA content, and after 12 years without NHL players at the Olympics, and that tournament certainly delivered, and there was no shortage of drama and the narratives. But to me, every single day during that tournament, I was reminded just how important it was to the players. Like players were so happy to be there. And I don't think it's always a bit trite to say, the player, it's really important to the players to play in the Olympics. And, when you miss 2 Olympics, as we did in 18 and 22 without NHL players, and then to have them back and to have a generation of players who'd never been there, Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, and you'll go down the list of elite players who'd never been to an Olympic. It was off the charts. And really to see players so engaged and so excited, and how much it meant to them to represent their countries again. It just sounds like the ultimate cliche, but it's so true. And I guess that's what I came away with, just that it's so meaningful for them. And I thought the product on the ice reflected that right almost from the beginning to the end.
Oh, there's no doubt. And to be honest, I mean, I think everyone knew that that would be the case once they saw what happened a year ago with the Four Nations. I mean, that was something that, we talked about it on the show. I was of the opinion, of course, this is going to be amazing. We've been 10 years without true best on best, but there were a lot of people that said, this is just in the middle of the regular season. I mean, how hard are these guys really going to go? Well, we saw very quickly that this was something they were all in. And I think that led to a build going into the Olympics that added even more to it. But when you think about the performances, the final, listen, for the National Hockey League's perspective, the Americans winning in the fashion that they did with a great Canada-USA final, this was a huge home run for the NHL, even though I'm sure they're still angry. They don't have all the highlights and all the issues with the Olympic Games. There were some big-time benefits for the NHL coming out of Milan.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I do think, I talk to people after and quietly, you're no cheering in the press box. And there's, in theory, there's no cheering. But, I think a lot of people, I was one of them. I mean, who didn't want to see Canada, US in the gold medal game? And both those teams throughout that tournament had really established themselves as the creme de la creme. A couple of, it's amazing though, when you get to that quarterfinal level and you look at Czechia and that game against Team Canada, holy cow, Swedes and the Americans, kind of a weird game. And the Swedes tie it late. Quinn Hughes wins it in overtime. It was really outstanding. And, Canada coming from behind in the semifinals, like there was no shortage of drama, but I do think that for a lot of hockey fans, I hate to be, sort of myopic about it, but certainly the fans in North America who didn't want to see after Four Nations face-off, a reprise of that, and we got it, and we got a game that was so off the charts. And it is a shame. You mentioned the highlights. It's still a problem, right? I still don't understand the IOC thought process, how restrictive it is to use images. To go back and I could watch the highlights of Connor Hellebuck in that gold medal game all day long. I still think about it. Dylan Larkin talking to him after the game, and he says, I'll watch a lot of Jack Hughes golden goal. I'll watch that all the time. He said, it may take me a while to watch Connor Hellebuck saves, given how often he, pulled us out of the fire in that game. But what a tremendous ending for a tremendous tournament. And I think I agree with you. The idea that the Americans coming out on top, first time since 1980, only the third time ever, it really is important. And it will be interesting to see now as we move forward. 2 years from now, we'll see a full World Cup of hockey again in 28, and then back to the Olympics in France in 30. I just think we are, in a golden age, potentially, for best on best hockey. And as hockey fans, what could be better than that?
Yeah, we can never go backwards on this. Now we finally got it. We've got a taste of it. It's too important, I think, to the world, certainly to hockey fans, and it should be for the NHL, and obviously with the World Cup going forward. Just on that, we're old enough to remember Canada Cups taking place in, August and September. Like, in your opinion, Scott, now, I guess I'll put the caveat is the best thing you could do is not have a freaking 84-game season and maybe work out a more reasonable schedule. But if that is the way things are going to go because of the revenue needs of the league, when, in your opinion, is the best time to do this?
Yeah, I do. And you're right. You maybe were of a similar vintage. I recall, I know where I was when I was watching the 87 Canada Cup. Sandhill Tavern in Windsor, Ontario. I was a young reporter at the Windsor Star. And I do think, and I think what we saw with the Four Nations face-off, I just think when you play in the middle of the season, when you create that gap, I know the owners don't like it, and certainly the injuries are an issue, right? When you look at the number of players who were injured in Milan, I totally understand the owners' hesitancy of the whole thing. I know it's hard for them to quantify what it, the growth of the game. How do you put a dollar value on it? I'm not sure you can, but we do know it's important. But I think in mid-season, that's the best time to do it. I think it makes most sense to do it that way. And I think when you get into a routine now, every 2 years, you're going to have an event that hockey fans can look forward to and the players can look forward to. And there's going to be, for the generation, this rising generation of NHL talent, to have these opportunities that were hit and miss really over the last 20 years with the World Cup of Hockey not really being a thing and the Olympics. You go from 14 in Sochi all the way to 26. Hopefully we won't, to your point, hopefully we don't backslide, and hopefully this becomes a real thing that people can look forward to every 2 years. And I do think I don't know how you quantify it, but I do think it's incredibly important for the growth of the game.
Scott Burnside with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Moving on to this season, and there's some wild storylines right now. Before we get into a couple of those, I'll just ask, Winnipeg Jets won the President's Trophy last year. Yes, they're in the most difficult division in hockey, but it is still kind of shocking to see where they are right now, even with this little bump they've had in the last week going before that egg they laid at home against the Ducks. Just the thoughts on this Jets season and how a team with this sort of talent is in the precarious spot that they are.
Yeah, I didn't see this coming. I knew, it's hard. No one wants to win the President's Trophy because no one wins the President's Trophy and then wins the Stanley Cup. But in general, you want to have the kinds of success that we've seen from Winnipeg year in, year out during the regular season. I think it's the mark of a team that, understands how to build. And the challenges that face Winnipeg, I think, are they're certainly unique, and they are a challenge that a lot of smaller market teams face in terms of, you really do have to draft and develop well. You really do have to bring players in, sign them to long-term deals. The fact that it is difficult to get free agents to come and sign. But I just thought they would be right in the mix again in the Central. I thought they'd be right there with Colorado, Dallas. Minnesota's been a bit of a surprise to me. Of course, adding Quinn Hughes helps a lot there. But that, when you look at those three teams, the top three teams in the Western Conference in the Central, and for a time, they were the top three teams in the NHL. Now, if I looked, my guess it would be three of the top five. It is a difficult division, but it doesn't really excuse the fact that this is a team that's, you mentioned that game against Anaheim. Those are the games that, if you're going to make a late push, again, those are wins you have to have. There are points you have to collect. It's really difficult to see that the Jets have an avenue to get in, even though the good thing for them, Western Conference, that whole Pacific Division is filled with, kind of slush, and, Seattle can't win. And there's just the Kings are kind of in a weird regression kind of mode. Like the door hasn't completely closed, but it's getting late. There's only a crack left open.
Yeah, not enough runway, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Listen,
to your point, they need to play 86 or 90 games.
Geez, I guess that's the one caveat. I'd say, all right, well, maybe if it turned around, we can add a few, but that's not happening this year. And they've got it tonight. Listen, we've talked before about the playoff format, and the commissioner loves it. Not necessarily fair to some teams every year. This year, it's going to be Dallas and Minnesota. Two of the top teams all season long. If they were in any other division, they'd be playing a wild card team. And yet they're playing each other in the first round. Do you have a lean either way on who comes out of that series?
Yeah, it's great. And it is, you're right. If you go back for the last, 10 years or whatever it is, certainly since the wild card format has been in, it really doesn't, if you went 1-8, as opposed to having the two wild cards and crossing over and the way it is now, there's really not all that much dramatic change. This year, though, is the outlier. And to me, it's why I don't care if it only happens once every 8 or 9 years. This is I think it's a shame. It's a shame you're going to have two of the three best teams in the Western Conference play each other in the first round. What's the benefit? Where's the benefit for either Minnesota or Dallas? Dallas probably has the edge in getting home ice advantage, but two exceptional teams. what's the incentive to have a terrific regular season when a team is going to win the Pacific Division and be 10 or 12 or 14 points in arrears of the second or third place team in the Central Division? They're going to get home ice advantage maybe for 2 rounds. It is baffling that this is how it shakes down. And it's interesting. Dallas is Jim Nill's a magician, right? I mean, every year, doesn't matter cap situation, doesn't matter. He builds an exceptional team. They do have some injuries, though. Ropa Hintz is out. Of course, Mikko Rantanen was hurt at the Olympics. He's still a ways away. What's the impact of that? And I like Bill Guerin's moves at the trade deadline for Minnesota. Adding sort of around the edges and different. Bobby Brink and Nick Foligno, one of my favorite people in the game, comes to play with his brother, and it's a lot of moving parts there for head coach John Hines, who I think has done a marvelous job. So I don't know if there's an edge. On paper, probably Dallas, but will they be healthy enough? And I think, again, the most dynamic player, I think you could argue on both teams, is Quinn Hughes. Is that enough in a 6 or 7 game series? Is he the kind of player that pushes you over the top? Assuming that, the goaltending, if the Wild goaltending tandem can, saw off Jake Ottinger, I don't know, maybe it's the Wild's time. It's been a long time. I think 2015 is the last time they won a playoff round, but it's going to be so great. It'll be the great first round matchup. No question about it. It's a sad thing that it's going to happen in the first round.
It's wild that, it kind of really seems like they've truly arrived as a contender with the moves that Guerin's done, and they could be golfing 10 days into the playoffs. And then, I mean, listen, when there's enough Minnesota sports fans around here, they hate the Wild, but they're Viking fans and whatnot. There's a good rivalry here with these two teams. And it would be here we go again. And just on Dallas for a minute, you mentioned the injuries to Hintz and Rantanen. They're the hottest team in the league right now. They've won 10 of 11. And I cannot wait for the first round, in particular that series. It'll be one. But again, it was Colorado-Dallas last year. We all remember when the Jets went to the conference final. I mean, Nashville and Winnipeg were 1-2 overall.
Yeah.
They played in the second round. So it is an imperfect system, but it sure makes the early part of the playoffs great.
Yeah.
I'm sure. The one, I'm just surprised that there hasn't been more pushback from the owners. I mean, that's the one group of people that can get through to Gary Bettman. And, if you're Minnesota that hasn't won a playoff round, you're spending all this money, you've gotten Quinn Hughes, you're paying Kaprizov. Like, those playoff dates are important. They pay a lot of bills. So I am surprised there hasn't maybe been more pushback from the owners from teams that maybe deserve a better chance at more playoff dates.
Yeah. And I think it goes back maybe to this idea that it doesn't really, like these kinds of moments that we're going to see in about a month really are more or less outliers. And I do understand, in theories of, fewer travel costs and building the divisional rivalries. I'm not sure I totally buy that, but it is interesting that, because the owners, when we're talking bottom line, I don't want to say that's all that matters to them, but it is critical, right? I mean, and go back to the Jets, for a second, the cost to a franchise, whether it's Winnipeg, but I think especially smaller market teams, when you don't make the playoffs, it is such a crushing blow to your bottom line. Like, it's not just a failure of what you've done in terms of on-ice performance and personnel and all those things, but the bottom line, it is so enormous. And I think to Florida, 3 years ago, it seems like a million years ago, but they sneak into the playoffs as the 8th seed. In fact, if Pittsburgh, all they have to do is beat one of two of the worst teams in the NHL, I believe it was Columbus and Chicago, down the stretch, can't get it done. They don't make the playoffs. Panthers go to 3 straight Stanley Cup final. That changed their entire destiny. And you think of the home dates that they've had over the last 3 years, and it's tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. And so when a team, again, I'm not suggesting the Jets, if they make it, they could win a Stanley Cup, but they could, because the Panthers show you can. So not making the playoffs, not having that opportunity is crushing for all teams in the NHL, but especially for those teams, that are in smaller markets. And so it's a huge deal. And to your point, if you have a really good team and you play another really good team in the first round because of the setup, and 10 days later, you're like, oh, we're done. Like that's problematic.
Yeah, there's going to be a real sobering press conference for one of those two GMs after that first round for two teams that have had incredible regular seasons. Scott, speaking of the playoffs, that building in Buffalo is going to be rocking next month. Just thoughts on the resurgence of the Sabres, which for my money is far and away the best story in hockey this year.
Yeah, no question. I don't think there's anything close to it. And again, being of a certain vintage, I recall the walk from a downtown Buffalo hotel to the arena and fans tailgating underneath the overpass and all that, the whole arena district. They've done a great job down in their, let's say, Channel Side area, whatever their name is, down by the arena. It's a beautiful spot. And of course, 14 straight years without a playoff berth. I can't imagine the scene, because it looks now like they'll host the first playoff game in 15 years, because they're going to finish. I think they're going to win the Atlantic Division, given how poorly Tampa's playing right now. But regardless, they should have home ice advantage. And what a reward for one of the NHL's longest suffering fan bases. It has been it's been all kinds of ugly there. And to see them go, this is a team that fired their general manager. I feel in some ways kind of bad for Kevin Adams, fired in December. Jarmo Kekalainen takes over. Jarmo is one of the smartest guys in the game. He's, it's such an insightful, thoughtful man. And, the fact is he took over that team and really, he maybe asserted different expectations. Maybe he helped to redraw the identity of the team or whatever it is. He's not changed that lineup at all, right? Lindy Russ still the head coach. The players are still the players. Even the guys he added at the trade deadline, I think, are still tied up in visa issues. So the team that is now the hottest team in the NHL since Kevin Adams was fired is the same team that Kevin Adams built. And they're going to be in the playoffs. And the East for me is completely wide open, right? Carolina's a terrific team. Didn't do really, Nick Delorier comes over, very quiet trade deadline for them. Tampa sprung all kinds of defensive leaks and special teams. Now it's no good. Could, let alone, never mind getting in the playoffs, which they're going to do. But is it possible the Sabres could be in an Eastern Conference final? Could they go to a Stanley Cup final? The possibilities are truly endless, I think, for this team. And boy, I'm so excited for that fan base, because they deserve it. They just absolutely deserve it.
Oh, they have been through so much. Just Buffalo sports fans in general. I'm a Chiefs fan. What the Chiefs have done to the Bills in the playoffs, has been so, heartbreaking, even when your team is beating them. And then, seeing just the misery of 14 years. And Scott, it was the start of December. The Jets played one of the worst games of the season in Buffalo on the 1st of December and lost 5-1. The Sabres then went and lost their next game. They started a road trip. I think they lost to Philly. Then they came to Winnipeg on that Friday of the same week. The Jets beat them. Then they went in and lost to Calgary. And I think at that point they were 11-14. They were 3 games under 500. They beat the Oilers in a shootout the next night. They win their next 2 games and then fired Kevin Adams. They were actually on a 3-game winning streak.
Exactly.
And then they ran off the next 7, and won 10 in a row. The timing of everything, when you go back and look at this season, it is sort of weird. But they have not looked back. And they are an absolute wagon right now. I just want to ask you about Kevin Adams. Because I've been thinking about him too. It's impossible not to right now. Has he done any interviews? Has anyone talked to him? I would be fascinated to hear what he has to say, because I'm sure it's, 50-50. I mean, you're upset you didn't get a chance to finish the job, but at the same point, your work is turning into a team that is inspiring a lot of people in that Buffalo fan base.
Well, and it's I don't know that Kevin has spoken to anyone or what the my guess is he's probably keeping quiet.
Lay it low.
But you raise a really interesting point, because I think when Kevin Adams gets fired, maybe you're saying, okay, like that's probably it for Kevin Adams. But if the Sabres go on and they have a deep run, go to a conference final, whatever. I mean, goodness, can you imagine if they actually won their first ever Stanley Cup? I mean,
everything's on the table.
Everything's on the table. But imagine then being able to, apply for an opening, and whether it's as a GM or a head of hockey ops or team president, or, I think Kevin Adams, you have to look at him in a different light than in the moments leading up to and after his firing. I just think you have to. And again, who knows what happens for Kevin Adams down the road. I'm of a certain vintage. I covered Kevin when he played. We remember him in Carolina and in Toronto. And, we chatted quite regularly after his playing career ended, because he did all kinds of different things. And I don't know, like, I wonder if the Kevin Adams narrative is going to change appreciably in the coming weeks and months, pending what happens to this Sabres team during this 26 playoff run. And maybe it turns out to be a good story for everyone involved.
That would be a great ending. Speaking of great endings, we'll see whether we get it. But there's one other. We have the potential of two incredible stories in the East. Thoughts on the job that the fixer, our guy Rick Bowness, has done in Columbus. Going into tonight's action, the Jackets are 2 back of Boston for the final wild card, and they're also 3 back of the Islanders with a game in hand for third place in the Metropolitan Division. The Blue Jackets are back in the mix big time, and it literally started with the return of Bones to the bench.
Yeah, I had dinner with Don Waddell, the Columbus GM, over a Hall of Fame weekend in Toronto, and things were pretty tough in Columbus, and I have done some work for the Minnesota Wild over the years, and I'm a big Dean Evison fan. I love Dean. There isn't anyone like Dean Evison, and so I was a little bit surprised that Don Waddell made the coaching change, but clearly this is why he's an NHL GM and I am not, because the turnaround has been dramatic, and it's been really sobering to watch, because for a long time Columbus was one of the hottest teams in the NHL after Rick took over, and still, as you pointed out, they're still outside the grid. But it's really hard to make up ground when you build dig yourself a hole. I mean, Jets fans know this all too well.
Big time.
But what a great story. They made a push last year, didn't quite get there, after the Gaudreau tragedy. And there's been so much that has gone on with that franchise. And people who never go to Columbus, it's a great city. They are a solid hockey market. There's just not a lot of stuff has gone right for them over the years. And wouldn't that be, to your point, wouldn't it be great? They slide into the playoffs. Again, a team in the Eastern Conference, if you can catch the Islanders, who've been on a bit, they're a bit sideways. Now you're in a 2-3 spot. You're playing probably Pittsburgh in the first round. I don't know. You just like the possibilities really, truly are wide open. And what a great story for Rick Bowness, who clearly spreads hockey joy wherever he goes. I just, if we talk about Buffalo as being the story of the season, Columbus making the playoffs, boy, it would slot into a pretty darn nice second spot in my book.
Yeah, and unlike, coming in, in the West and getting a date with the Colorado Avalanche, if you get that second spot, the East is as wide open as we have ever seen it, I think, right now, with the teams like Florida and Toronto and Jersey that are all out of the playoffs. So, hey, it's going to be a great run. Scott, thanks so much for the time. Always great to catch up with you. Hopefully we can do this again as we get closer to the playoffs. Fill people in on what you got cooking over at Burnside on Hockey.
Yeah, people can check that out at their leisure, and I'm happy to chat anytime. So I look forward to it.
Really appreciate it, Scott. Have a great one and enjoy a big night tonight in the league.
All right, take care.
I do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their wonderful support of WST. It won't be too long before we're back at Princess Auto Stadium cheering on the Bombers. In the meantime, Princess Auto serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon, or you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. The snowmobile season continues to be an amazing one. A little more snow last night, and a lot of people will be hitting the trails on the weekend. Our pals at Chud's Power Sports are dominating the snowmobile season, and right now they have just started the Polaris 2027 Snow Check program up at Chud's in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231. It's for pre-ordering the new snowmobile models for next year. If you pre-order, you get the best deal of the year on the new models, plus an extra 2-year warranty for a total of 3 years instead of just the normal 1 year, $250 in free accessories, and the golden ticket, which will give them $1,000 off the 2028 Snow Check if they want to trade up to 27. It runs now until March 13th. The header is running on the website at chudspowersports.com. So get on over to that, and while you're at it, you can start thinking about spring with bikes and ATVs and RVs, because Chud's has it all. The power sports superstore in Manitoba for over 80 years. Got to thank Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery. Continue to get just always getting great comments from our listeners and customers that have found Manitoba Battery through WST. Shopping local, beating the pants off the big box stores and really anywhere else you're going to get batteries. And of course, the best in service. They'll put it in for you. They'll give you a free battery test if you're wondering if you need a new one. And right now, you want to get through this winter for car and truck batteries. But as we get into boats and ATVs and, of course, sleds, Manitoba Battery has it all. 2 Winnipeg locations, Logan Avenue, Dovercourt Drive out on the south side. And, of course, you can also order online. They do deliver anywhere inside the perimeter of the city of Winnipeg. You can order online today at manitobabattery.com. All right, we're going to get back to the Jets talk with Sean Reynolds. Jake Bolan Moss will join us from Coolbit a little later on. Are keeping an eye on the Players' Championship right now on the PGA Tour. Mav McNeely, 5 under, is your leader right now. Justin Thomas back, only his second tournament. He was terrible last week. Shot like 80. He's 4 under. Russell Henley, 4 under as well. My guy, Tony Finau, Tommy Fleetwood, Vic Hovland, Ludwig Oberg, all in a group 2 shots back at 3 under par. We'll take a look at the leaderboard before we are finished. All right, let's welcome in the brains of the operation of K&R. I joke. We love them both. Sean Reynolds of Sportsnet. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing great. I think you nailed it. I've been waiting for someone to say it, but you finally said it. It's out there. Brains of the K&R operation. Not really. No. Not in watching nor in playing.
Obviously, hockey is something that you played and you cover most closely. As a fan, what are your next 3? Like, just as a sports fan, what are your 3 next sports outside of hockey?
Oh, well, I mean, I used to be able to do everything. Like, I could name you the starting pitching lineup of all the teams in the AL East. And I Sundays when basketball had the triple header, I was tuned in from the tip off of the first game right until the last buzzer of the last game. I used to be really invested across the board, massive NFL guy. What I found with this job is I just get, it's really kind of killed the fan in me in most respects, but B, if I have a moment of time, I'm checking out a Columbus Blue Jackets versus, Florida Panthers game or something like that. Like I just consume hockey. The rest of it's all on the periphery. If I'm rooting for a team, I'm rooting for the Blue Jays. I'm rooting for you can see it in the hats that I wear on the show. I'm rooting for the Dallas Cowboys in football. I'm rooting for the San Antonio Spurs in basketball. I'll tell you this, and I think I talked about it on our podcast a little bit. I kind of like that the fan has been killed in me because man, oh man, do the fans go on those like emotional rides up and down when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'm pretty clinical pretty surgical when it comes to the Jets and hockey and all those kind of things. But boy, oh boy, did it feel heartbreaking to watch what happened to the Jays earlier on this year. And I'm glad I don't have to go through that like everybody else does. That's terrible. It's hard. You have no time. Like someone died in the family.
You have no time to watch other sports. You're too busy listening to CNC Music Factory.
There you go.
What a reference on the last edition of KNR. I think you could have asked me to say, here's 1,000 guesses on where Randy's going to start off talking about this game, and the CNC Music Factory would not have been one of those thousands. Not that I want to belabor Tuesday's performance, but I guess coming tonight, like I said this to Remis earlier on, I know these games down the stretch are going to be more about young players and thinking about next year, and we sort of know what we have. But I got to tell you, Sean, considering what we saw and what we didn't see on Tuesday night, I'm going to really be focused in on that top line, the top power play unit, the big guys on this team to see how they respond after what we saw on Tuesday night.
Well, and they will need to if this team is going to go anywhere, because it's clear what's happened is, it's clear in my mind what's happened is at the beginning of the year, the Winnipeg Jets tried to be the team they were last year. That scored a lot, right? And forecheck down the ice with speed and turn pucks over and turn those, turnovers into goals. And they just didn't have the speed to get there this year. So what I've seen them do to try and kind of survive or adapt to what has happened to the team is to just kind of really neutral zone trap the kind of thing. I don't know if that's the specific term for what they're doing, but they're not, pressuring down ice the way that they have in the past. They will at certain points of the game, but they're just kind of, trying to stack up the line, not let you in there, try and make it 0-0 games, and then hope that they can win, as they've been doing in overtime, or hope that they can win off some skill. And that's what we've been seeing. The Canucks game, Mark Scheifele scores that big goal to tie that game up. Cole Perfetti with the net pulled against Chicago before that scores to tie that game up. So you're right, Hustler. What we do see is on nights where that line does not show up, the Jets don't have much of a chance. They're trying to keep games 0-0 and find a tiny little edge in the vast majority of games they play to be successful. That edge is typically their top scoring line, so they need them. They cannot be absent the way they were against the Ducks.
Are you surprised that things are sort of status quo line-wise coming into tonight? The reason I ask this is I think at some point, if we really want to see what the Jets have in Isaac Rosén, might be good to get him off of the wing of Taves and Nyquist. I realize that they have no extra forwards right now with the guys that are injured. Do you think that will happen, and when will that happen?
Maybe there's in my mind here, Huss, about 5 more games that the Jets can lose. And then you just can't expect them to climb to a point that they would make the playoffs, even if they ran the table at some point. So maybe after that point, I know that Kevin Cheveldayoff, made it clear how he feels about the season with the moves he made, with the players that he's brought up. The coaching decisions don't suggest that to me. The coaching decisions suggest that the coach is still very much trying to get this team to pull off a miracle ahead of seeing what this team has in its players. So, I think the fact that Villy Heinola has stayed out of the lineup, you would think at some point that if there was ever going to be the deck cleared enough for Villy Heinola to get in and have a little bit of time to show what he can do, it would have been now. The fact that that's not happening is telling to me. Scott Arniel still wants to pull off a miracle here. And I'm sure there's a large number of the Winnipeg Jets who have. Now, there's a lot of other teams that just would have said, let's cash it in. Let's see what we have. Let's move forward. Let's put those, like you're saying, let's put guys like Roseanne up on the top line, see if you can get a little spark in that player. If the time does come, it will be the time, Huss, in my belief, that the Jets have no other option other than to wave the white flag and do that. But the Jets of the teams outside of the playoffs are in a very different mindset, I see right now, than the vast majority of those teams outside of the playoffs.
Yeah, you bring up Heinola, and it's interesting. Where I'm at on this is, Sean, is that ship has sort of already sailed. I think we know that there's no way he plays enough games. I mean, when he got recalled, it was like if he'd played every game until the end of the season, he still would have been one game short to get to the amount of games that would have prevented him from coming a Group 6 free agent. Right. So now you have him here. I mean, I guess he could go and play, and I mean, he's showcasing himself for, the off season. But like, if he actually went and played amazing over the course of the last 20 games, I can't imagine a scenario where he's like, okay, actually, maybe I will come back next year. I mean, it's pretty clear from what we've heard him talking to Finnish reporters that, he'd like a clean slate and a fresh start somewhere. I can't blame him.
Right.
So to me, he's sort of in no man's land right now, because I think everyone realizes that the writing is on the wall that he's not going to be with the organization at next season, which means that, you're giving a guy in Bryson, who's a very similar size player to Villy Heinola, he's going to be the one that gets the opportunity to play. And the Jets can see, well, do we have anything in this guy? And maybe we keep him around, because to me, the Villy thing is pretty much done, signed, sealed, and delivered, that this is it for him with the organization this year.
You've nailed it. You've absolutely nailed it. The question for me is just then why is he here at this stage? Do you know what I mean? Why is he here? How did it get to a point where you allowed something to get to a point where to how you very astutely put it, there would be no point in putting him in? So, I mean, to me, it just, the fact that he's here, the fact that he's up with the Jets, hanging around in morning skates, in practices, is just this standout reminder of a once promising prospect that just has been mismanaged at one, like confidently saying mismanaged at some point. Like, either you needed to figure out a way to get him to be an NHLer, or you needed to move him when he had value. Regardless, him being here to me is just a constant reminder of, man, did we ever mess that one up?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I think, they've had a lot of players in with the Moose. And, listen, when Villy Heinola is in the Moose lineup, Mark Morrison's going to play him. He's clearly one of the best players on that team. Does that take playing time from guys that you want to see more? I mean, it's an unfortunate situation for the player to be in. That's for sure. And to be honest, I had a lot of time for him in the way that he played in the limited time that he actually got into the lineup on the way back. But I mean, it doesn't really serve a purpose right now, and it's unfortunate for the player that he is. I mean, listen, we haven't seen a lot of these guys so far, but where are you at on the early look at Rosine, at Bryson, as well as Brad Lambert in another opportunity?
Yeah, I liked Bryson. I liked his game. I can see what's kept him in the NHL for as long as it's kept him in. We talked about this on the podcast. He is a small guy, like one of the smallest players that I've ever covered before. And on defense, that's something else, to stay in the league as long as he has. Now, clearly, he's not necessarily a full-time guy, but he's managed to stick around the league for as long as he has. He looks to me like a really smart hockey player who the Jets came in and said, this is our system, and he picked up on it right away. Where there's a lot of players, and I think there's some players we can use as examples of the veterans that were brought into the Jets at the beginning of the year who took time to get going in the system. Bryson, I felt, stepped into that system and got it, made a few mistakes here and there, but I'd rather see a guy make a few mistakes here and there trying to do something But that's what I saw him do as well. He had the confidence to not only say, okay, this is the system, this is how I'm supposed to play. I think I've got that covered off. I can do a little bit more. Of the three, he's the one that impressed me the most. The question I have is understanding in the organization that they feel they're going to need to address the size that was lost in Luke Schenn and Logan Stanley, where that leaves him. I mean, he's a player. I think the Jets like him. Maybe you keep him around, but then it just means now that you've got Pionk and DeMello and Josh Morrissey and Bryson in your lineup, and that's four of your guys who are, borderline undersized defensemen, along with a guy like Dylan Sandberg, who is big but doesn't play with a lot of sandpaper. I mean, this is not a defense core that anyone is terrified of or worried about playing, and the Jets are going to have to address that, and I wonder what that means for Bryson. Roseanne, okay, yeah, you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, no, listen, I kind of agree on Bryson. I mean, he was a guy that to me was kind of a throw in an afterthought. I mean, they were just, they need to move around the roster pieces, but he does have he's obviously moved the puck well. He's skilled. Now, do you want a 5'9" guy in your lineup regularly? I mean, that's another question, but you're very much right about not terrorizing anybody. And that, I think, we'll talk about the other guys first, but I mean, I think there's a bigger conversation about how this team changes their identity a little bit moving into next year. And to me, being harder and tougher to play against would be one of those things. And that might be easier to acquire than, second line centers that are coming in and scoring a point a game for you. But man, that would mean quite a bit of change, I think, with this team based on this roster that we're going to see tonight against the Rangers.
Agreed. Entirely agreed. I'll pick up on Roseanne. I like what I've seen so far. I think what I've also seen is a guy that is tentative in coming into the league as a guy who's getting it done at the AHL level. But if you go and you take a look at his history, a guy that comes up to the NHL and hasn't been able to get it done. So what I'm watching for, Huss, from a player like that is if you get a new opportunity, have you wiped the slate clean in your mind? Are you jumping out on the ice and you're saying, here we go, this is my chance? Or are you a guy who's still got that mental block of, can I get it done in the NHL? And what I see is a guy who, and he's a younger player, so it's going to take him time to make sure that he fits in with the system. Your job when you come into a new team is to make sure that you're playing the system right. That shows that you're smart, that you can that you can get your coach's trust, all those different kind of things. It's going to take some time for him to make sure he locks that down and earns it. It's why I was so impressed by Bryson, because he was able to step in and, in my mind, I think, latch onto the system right away. Give Roseanne some time. But until I see it, I question a player, and he's young. Give him time. There's lots of players who are still figuring it out at this point, but there's lots of players who are at this point and haven't been able to figure it out and don't end up figuring it out. So that's the big question for me. Is this player going to be poised to grab a hold of an opportunity and make that turn and believe in himself as being this player who's, this is my opportunity, I'm going to be one of the guys now? I haven't seen that in the two games I've seen from him. It's something I'll be looking out for going forward. I'm not saying because I haven't seen it that it's not there or it can't be there, but this isn't an immediate bam. It worked the moment that he stepped on the ice with the Winnipeg Jets. And then finally with Brad Lambert, it's almost a similar situation. Like, Brad Lambert did not necessarily earn his way back up to an NHL opportunity. You heard Kevin Cheveldayoff talk about it. He was frustrated with the young guys on the Manitoba Moose because he really didn't feel that there was a number of players that they were waiting to make the decision for them. And you go back through the history of the Winnipeg Jets. Kyle Connor made the decision for them. Josh Morrissey made the decision for them. Adam Lowry made the decision for them. Mason Appleton, go on Roslovic, go on and on. These are players that were like, you need to put me up to the NHL because I've done everything I can here. And when I get there, I'm going to capitalize on my opportunities. That's not what Brad Lambert did. Brad Lambert went down and created more question marks with his play than answers when he was with the Manitoba Moose. But because of the way things fall, he gets an opportunity. This is like when you get a golden opportunity, you have to take advantage of it. And again, I take a look at the first 2 games. Don't want to pick on one player, and I don't think he was terrible. But again, I have not seen a player who's like, okay, the golden opportunity has come. I'm pouncing on it. I've yet to see the pounce.
Yeah, I like I've had time on with that line too. I mean, like as bad as that game was, Morgan Barron's still going. And listen, I think that I would hope that at some point we maybe see Morgan Barron up the lineup. I mean, listen, 100% respect for Jonathan Toews. He's playing with Nyquist right now and Rosén, and to me, that's just not a great spot for either of those players to be in. But as we get down the stretch here, and at one point there, our coach Arneal is ready to do that. We'll see. But wouldn't it be nice to see Morgan Barron with a couple more offensive players playing a little bit more, to see whether there might be more than they've gotten out? Because listen, in that role that he's doing right now with Koepke, I think both of those guys have been amongst the best and most consistent players the team's had over the course of the last couple months. But we'll see what happens with Toews moving forward. You know what you've got in Adam Lowry, and he's not getting any younger. And let's face, he was never cast to be a top 6 center to begin with. He's been in that role because they haven't had anybody else. I don't see what the downside would be in getting a little bit more Morgan Barron and mixing him in with some younger, faster players like we're talking about.
So Morgan Barron and Nikolai Ehlers is not a great comparison. One's a bear, but they're both really fast. One is, sonic speed fast. I'm going to compare them in this regard. There was, for a long time, if you remember, and it happened with Patrick Laine before that, but a lot of people who were rubbed the wrong way that Nikolai Ehlers couldn't get a crack on the top power play. And those people were fairly vindicated, Huss, when he was moved onto the number 1 power play last year, and it absolutely worked great. The one thing that I did always think when he was on that secondary power play is that was still a really good secondary power play, and he was the focal point of it. He was the guy that the Jets coaching staff looked and said, okay, if we need to have a secondary threat, this guy is so good that he can carry that threat. Now, the one thing I look at when I see how they utilize Morgan Barron is they're basically saying Morgan Barron is so good he can carry a line. Now, it's the 4th line, but he can carry a line. And on a team that I would suggest has struggled with offensive depth this season, having a single guy that you can play on the 4th line who no matter who is on that 4th line, is going to A, take it to the opposition, B, be defensively responsible, but C, produce some points here and there, just basically as a coach means I can just put that guy there, I can set it and forget it. Right now, your suggestion and a lot of the fans' suggestion is that this guy has earned more than just being that, earned more than being on the 4th line. I'm not sure. I don't. The title doesn't bother me. The fact that he's on the 4th line all the time, maybe the usage and ice time should a little bit, but I think both can be true on a thin team where you don't have a lot of offensive options. Sticking a guy on a 4th line and knowing that's going to work no matter what at least allows you to now try and narrow your focus to the 2nd and 3rd line because your 1st line is going as well. Now let's figure out the 2nd and the 3rd line. If you steal him from that line and put him up on the 2nd and it works, maybe that's great. But now maybe your 4th line isn't defensively responsible and you got to worry about them being out there and it causes all sort of problems. I'm not defending Scott Arneal in this decision. I think personally that if you move him up the roster and give him more opportunities, he pops and he grows as a player. So I guess it's all about what you value. Do you value the individual earning opportunities, giving him more opportunities to let that player flourish? Or are you doing what I see the Winnipeg Jets doing right now, still trying to desperately hold it all together and win enough games to make it into the playoffs? If you're going that route, it doesn't surprise me one bit that Morgan Barron is on the 4th line. If we go back to your thoughts about the Jets seeing what they have for the future, he should, no doubt about it, be given more opportunity based on what he's basically doing all by himself.
Well, I would argue this. I mean, just based on, like, if I'm Arneal right now, looking at, and let's say we're not changing the lines at all, I think you have to get that line out there more. I mean, who's been around the net more? Who's, been creating things? Who's made the most of their minutes more? I would argue that fourth line, certainly last game and many nights, shift for shift, has been more impactful, frankly, than all three of the other lines at times, certainly on Tuesday night. So, and listen, I think Cole Koepke is a guy that, with his speed playing in that role, I mean, you put him with the Taves, you put him with Adam Lowry, I mean, I think you're going to get relatively similar results. I mean, I'm just looking at this through the scope of a couple things. They need to figure out how to get more from the center position. They need to get more juice outside of that top line. And we've seen Morgan Barron do some really good things. Listen, he also went 21 games without scoring a goal. And that's probably not something that fits in. But with a little bit more opportunity and playing with a few more offensive players, I just like to see it. And I think it's worthwhile for the organization to give that a crack at some point before we get to the 16th of April.
I agree with you 100%. I agree he's earned more opportunity, and I do think that you can create problems on a team when you do not provide opportunities for the players that have earned those opportunities. I think that's how you lose players, not just the players who aren't getting the opportunities they deserve, but the other players around them, because when there's a sense of justice on a roster in if I do the right things, I'm going to see this result. That always plays out. So I would agree with you. And the other part, the point that you made in counter to what I was saying about, well, okay, fine, but then maybe that line should be playing more. I love to argue, Huss. I have no argument against that. I cannot come up with a reason why he would not be being provided with more ice time. You bring that question up, and again, I'm not here to defend anyone. I'm here to suggest what I'm seeing.
You like to mix it up.
Understand.
You like to mix it up, Freddie. I know.
And I can't. I want to mix it up so bad, but I've got nothing to say about that because he deserves more ice time.
I just think so much about the set. And listen, this is not unique to Winnipeg, but Winnipeg, as much as any team, desperately needs more juice from the center ice position. I don't know what the future of Jonathan Taves is. We'll figure that out in the summer. Adam Lowry's obviously going to be there. But, I mean, as we move forward, Adam Lowry's going to be centering one of the lines in the bottom six, unless they just simply have nothing above him, which is sort of basically where we're at right now. Exactly. And, you look at everyone that's signed, and not that I'd be telling anyone to get their hopes up that the Jets are going to get any big fish on the free agent market, because that's just simply, history tells us, is probably quite difficult and doesn't normally happen. But it then gets it, okay, looking to head to next year, how can this team be better? Who can be in that spot? And, barring, there's not really anyone knocking the door down from Manitoba that can go in and jump into that spot. I mean, the guys that they've drafted at center, Cole Perfetti, Brad Lambert, they've moved to the wing because it seems like they don't have the confidence that they can play. And I look at Bear and I see the size that he has, the speed. When he's at his best, taking the puck to the net, good things happen. And, he's a more than capable defender playing in that role. So, I mean, to me, of the things that I would like to see before the end of the year, there's nothing more than that. When we're talking about moving around these pieces at forward, to me, it's logical that guy gets a bit more of a run, maybe with some different players, with some more ice time. And you see, maybe if we have more than what we've seen so far in that role.
Just before you move on, he's the best in-house option to fill that role, no doubt. If you feel like you can't fill it, and I agree with you 100%, the Jets don't fill those things with UFAs. The hint, I thought that was pretty obvious in Kevin Cheveldayoff's press conference, in getting that second round pick back for the trade that he made with the guys to Buffalo. For me, is he basically said out loud that those things get thrown around on this day like they're nothing. They're extremely valuable on draft day. I fully expect the Jets to package that up, and I'm not sure what else, to go try and find a team that is looking for a salary dump and then find a player. To me, I guess that it's part of the answer in what we're talking about here, Huss. Morgan Barron is not being treated like a player they're trying to see if he could end up being their second line center, because they have other plans. They want a plan to bring someone in. And if we're being 100% honest with ourselves, similar to like it was with Nemesnikov, I really like Barron. I think he's a great player for what he is. But if he ends up being your long-term solution at second line center, he either has parts of his game that are vastly undiscovered and he's going to reach a ceiling no one thought he could reach, or he's going to be an example of a team that just does not have the pop in the top six, because starting with your second line center, this is not the kind of guy who can produce enough points that you would expect in that role.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. I mean, I don't think he's got, top six hands, but he does have the wheels. And as this game gets faster and you bring in a couple young guys like Rosine and Brad Lambert that can both fly, as I say, I don't see the downside to giving it a run for a dozen games or so as we get down the stretch, and maybe that will happen. As I think it all, like to your point, there was a little bit of hope creeping back in here before what we saw on Tuesday, and that can very quickly, with the steep hill that the Jets have and all the teams that are ahead of them, reality hits you hard very quickly.
It could turn in the next 3 games.
They're not there yet.
And all hope could be gone, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and at that point, you kind of run in there, and then I think we'll see, Tyrell Bauer pop in for a few games and, a couple of other looks. And you do make up a good point, because, as I say, there's no easy way to go and solve this problem. I mean, it comes at a cost. And, as we get towards the draft in Buffalo, that pick, I think a lot of it depends on where they finish and what happens in that draft lottery. I mean, if you end up picking in the top 5, 6, 7, probably, I think that pick is off limits. But, and like, this will drive some people crazy. But Sean, if this team, say the pick ends up at 9 or 10, and, it's far less a sure thing. That pick, that second round pick, their other assets, I mean, that could be used to bring in a guy that can come in and play now and sort of fit in with the window of the guys that they paid a lot of money to that are 30 and older.
They're in such a tough spot. They're in the exact same spot as the Toronto Maple Leafs are in, because there's competing ideologies here. There's a whole bunch of people on your roster that this organization believes are the kind of guys who can take them over the top. The best goaltender in the world, one of the best centers in the world, one of the best wingers in the world, one of the top 5 defensemen in the world. Like, they've got all these pieces that they're committed to, but the vast majority of these guys are in their early 30s. Mark Scheifele is about to turn 33. So will Lowry by the end of the month. So will Connor Hellebuck in May. So you're in this scenario where like, to me, Huss, a decision has to be made. Now, the idea of sending a second and a first round pick out the door to bring in a right now second line center, me just suggesting that right now, I can tell there's people picking up their computers and throwing them across the room. There's people throwing and I'm not suggesting they could do that. They should do that. But what I don't believe is there's a middle of the road solution to this. I don't think you are going to address the core and win right now without taking drastic action. And that means that you just take what little resources you have for the future and throw those out the window as well. And you have to ask yourself, is this group worthy of saying we're going all in on this because we're so certain that they're going to win a Stanley Cup? The competing ideology is if they're older and you don't think you can win a cup with this team, at some point you have to start making the decisions about the future and turning what you have right now into the future. The Jets aren't ready to do that right now. I don't think they'll be ready to do it next year. But this is not an easy solution because you don't have a lot of money to spend. And what you do have to spend, it's going to be like a business owner who says, I believe in this idea. I'm mortgaging my house. I'm taking everything I have and I push it in there. And those people either go bankrupt or they blow up and they have a massive billion-dollar business. It's one of the two. And that's where the Jets find themselves right now at the bank, wondering whether or not they should mortgage the house.
Great analogy. Rennie, great stuff. Thanks so much for jumping on. Of course, you and Ken coming up after the game tonight, and then a busy weekend. but at least you won't be up until midnight or 1 a.m. doing the shows. We've got a lot of afternoon hockey the next 2 weekends with matinees Saturday and Sunday at home, and then really early games noon and 11 a.m. on the road the following weekend. Sean, thanks as always for your time, pal. Look forward to the show tonight.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. There is Sean Reynolds, Rennie of Kenny and Rennie. You know where to find him after the game tonight over on the KNR channel. Folks, there is still time to count yourself in for your chance to be Manitoba's next millionaire with the St. Boniface Hospital Mega Million Choices Lottery. The grand prize winner will have a choice from one of 5 dream home packages valued at $1.5 million, or just take the cash, 1.25 Canadian dollars, tax-free. But there's other great ways to support the great cause at the St. Boniface Hospital and win big, and that's with the 50-50 plus and the Big Score Plus options. The 50-50 jackpot's over $1.2 million right now, and the winner takes half. And the Big Score Plus will be 60 winners of $1,000 cash and 10 winners of $12,000 cash. Grab your tickets for the add-ons and the grand prize draw today. stbmegamillionchoices.ca. That's stbmegamillionchoices.ca. You can also pick up your tickets at Red River Co-op or London Drugs locations. And don't forget, it's all in support of the St. Boniface Hospital and all the important research they do over at St. B. All right, we are going to welcome in, coming up right now, a very special guest from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and a very special guest of his. This is a first, folks. Stick around. Sergio Castillo next on WST. Clean Line is your one-stop shop with over 40 years of experience for the best in Winnipeg residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical services. And much like the Captain Adam Lowry, they've got you covered 24/7 with emergency services. Remember the number, 204-500-2001 for Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, Electrical for all your needs, residential, commercial, and when you're in a jam. The gang at BP is ready to welcome Jet fans back. Head to your local BP Jets Pick a Player contest for all Winnipeg Jet games. And, of course, those ice-cold schooners, world-famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and more. Staying at home, you can always get the great taste of BP by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And got to shout out our friends at Royal. What a run they had with the Olympic Games. Now we look ahead to the Stanley Cup playoffs, of course, and baseball season. Tons of new Jays and MLB gear coming in by the day. And as everyone's getting ready to maybe get out of town in and around spring break, don't forget Royal's amazing snowboard department with the best in deals on boots, bindings, decks, you name it. They've got it with the experts to help you get the right fit before you hit the slopes. It's all waiting for you at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Instagram at the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, Bomber season isn't too far away. Let's welcome in a great friend of the program, a very popular member of the Bombers, and a guy that got some pretty impressive hardware as well. And maybe the biggest new addition to the team is the new member of Team Castillo that joins him right now, Sergio Castillo and his new daughter. What's up, Serge?
Good morning. First of all, thank you guys for having me. And here's Luisa Renata here. We just got out of our 2-month checkup, and I thought I would be free to go, but she's decided to drink a lot more, so that's good. We want strong baby.
That's right. And keeping dad working right now. Your wife's back working, so it's just you and Luisa for a bit, hey? Daddy duty for the next little while.
Yeah. Yes, it was that she returned to work at at 5 weeks. She's a high school soccer coach and a PE teacher at an elementary school. So they're in the heart of their season right now. So that first week was rough, getting used to Luisa and her schedule and obviously I don't have the magic boob like mom does. So that first week was horrible for me. So we're making it happen. And there's been a couple of times I try to trick her. I put my shirt up in my boob, but she's like, "Nah, there's too much hair. This ain't mommy's."
Well, listen, congratulations. She's beautiful, and it's great to see that mom and baby and dad are so happy right now. Of course, dad, I'm sure, is looking forward to getting back to work.
Yes. I actually started kicking about 2 weeks ago. Feeling pretty good with the off-season program that I've been doing right now. And so, yeah, I kicked at 5:30 this morning, under the lights at Old West Texas A&M. So that was it was a good little session.
Well, hey, you know what? First things first, we got to congratulate you. I mean, I think everyone knows what you do in the community and what a popular and important member of the organization you are. But you're the first guy ever to be saluted as both the Bombers Community Service, the Ed Kotowich Good Guy Award, and the Cal Murphy Heart of a Legend Award, going back to back, if you will, or doubling up. I mean, what was it like getting the word from the organization that you were getting not one but both of those very important awards?
Well, one, I wasn't expecting an award or anything like that. So when I got the call, I thought that was definitely an honor, right? And I think it's just you do it because you want to give back. And for me, I remember being a kid and going to stadiums. It didn't matter what sport it was, and I just wanted to be part of that atmosphere, right? And I was like, and now that I have that platform, and it's a big platform representing the W, I try to take fully advantage. I know that I have a responsibility. We have a responsibility in representing not only the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but also giving a little piece of our lives to our fans.
Well, I mean, you've consistently done that ever coming to Winnipeg, and it makes sense that if there was ever someone that was going to bang both out the awards, it would be yourself. You do stuff with Dream Factory, Kid Think. I mean, so many other local charities. Why has that always been important to you, Sergio? And what do you get out of it?
For me, I grew up in a single-parent home, and it was tough. For me, I always look for that father figure, right? And for me, going to an arena, it didn't matter if it was a basketball game, soccer, football. And my mom put me in all the sports, but whenever we went to like a collegiate game, even high school games, I was so excited when a player would come and chat with me or say hello, and for me, it's like, I know the big platform that we have, especially representing the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And for me, it's like we have a big responsibility in not only playing at our best, but also representing the W at our best. And I think that is also not by, like, for me, it's not just only kicking footballs, but it's also by giving back a little bit of our lives, right? And, you mentioned earlier, part of the Dream Factory. And for me, it's, my niece, Sophia, when she got diagnosed with leukemia in April of 2024, I saw the toll that it took on our family. So if I could give back a little bit in terms of 15 minutes, 20 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes of a little bit of us with the Bombers, right? And make them forget a little bit of their current situation, then it's a win, right? So, with the Dream Factory, we did a taco night where my mother-in-law came in and she taught 6 or 7 families how to make homemade tortillas from scratch. So I think we made over 200 something tortillas that night. So, and for me, that's what it's all about, right? It's like, life is tough as it is. And if we can bring a little hope and a little bit of happiness to the people around us, it's a win.
Oh man, listen, you've been doing that ever since you got here, and it is great. I would have liked to have come out for that tortilla night. You've told us all about those. That's on the list for this year. Yeah. Get together with you, Sergio. I know a lot of the daddy duty calls and comes first. Listen, I can't wait to see the little bean in maybe a 14 jersey in Winnipeg at some point this year. When are we seeing you back in the peg, and how much are you looking forward to the upcoming season?
Yeah, no, definitely excited to be back. I was talking about it with my wife. I'm like, man, we're less than 2 months away till, I got my flight info already, flying May 7th or 8th, and we start camp the 9th. So definitely excited. And
listen, Sergio, you get that cannon of a leg ready to rock for June. We will look forward to seeing you in May. Have a great time with your new daughter. Louisa actually now has a new record, the youngest ever guest on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and I'm not sure whether it'll ever be beaten.
2 months and 3 days on the dot.
Have a great day. Thanks for coming on. Congratulations on the awards, and can't wait to see you and the Blue Bombers back at Princess Auto Stadium real soon.
Sounds good. You guys have a good one. As always, good chatting with you guys.
I do want to thank our friends at the HSC Foundation and remind you all that right now the Fund a Need campaign is well underway. This is so important to help with the spinal surgery department. There's obviously a big wait. They're looking to raise $425,000, and every one of your donations will be matched. So it will be doubled. Of course, you'll get a tax receipt for it. They're looking to get some new surgical equipment that will allow 200 more spine surgeries and 400 more joint replacement surgeries a year. So if you go to Health Sciences Center Foundation, to the Fund a Need campaign, and help us raise $425,000, and everything is matched by the Manitoba Spine Program. And hey, making our finishing touches with our winner to get out to Akens Lake this year. Don't forget, folks, if you're looking for a world-class fly-in fishing experience here in the province, where you can be on the water in less than a couple hours from the city of Winnipeg, Akens Lake is the spot. World-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality from the Terrence family and the Akens team. Booking now throughout the summer, over 75% full. So check it out now at akenslake.com and get your bookings. And if you are looking for a great summer job for you students out there, go to akenslake.com and inquire as well about opportunities for the upcoming year. All right, how about that, Sergio, with the baby on the program? She is definitely the youngest guest in the history of WST. Let's get ready for a big slate tonight in the National Hockey League, and welcome in Jake Bolan Moss from Coolbet as we get ready for March Madness. Keep our eye on the Players' Championship. We'll give a big update on that in a minute. JBM, what's going on, my man?
Oh, not too much, Huss. Not too much. Happy to be back on the show. I feel like it's been a while. Maybe, did I come on late last week? I don't know. It's good to chat some sports. WBC obviously has been an exciting time. Canada not only getting through, but winning Pool A. And their reward was getting the U.S. in the quarterfinals. So, yeah, I mean, listen, that's kind of the big news right now. Obviously, the players, like you mentioned, we'll get into that, and some crazy news this morning from a player withdrawal that's going to affect a lot of people, unfortunately. But, yeah, a lot going on right now. And then, yeah, conference tournament week for the for college basketball. I've been diving in today, a lot of stuff, starting as early as 11 a.m. Eastern. So it's been a lot of games, just trying to get a piece of the action, see who's good, see who I'm going to ride come tournament time next week.
Yeah, we'll be leaning on you for a little WST winner special next week before the madness begins. WBC, great game yesterday. They got the win. Shout out to Pat for that nice boost that he gave us on the Dominican Republic to win their group. They got the job done yesterday. But you're right. I mean, through the sheer incompetence of Mark DeRosa and the Americans not knowing the format and that they had not clinched, they choke up the game to Italy. They finished second in the pool. Fortunately, they could have actually been on the outside looking in. But unfortunately for Canada, That's the matchup, Canada-USA, and Canada is a plus 570 underdog in that game tomorrow. USA minus 909. Canada plus 4.5 on the run line, plus 105. I will say this, Jake. Nothing would probably be more shocking to the Americans. It would make Canadians feel better coming out of that Olympic game than pulling off our own miracle. And you know what they say? That's baseball. Anything can happen. So I'm ready. I'm looking forward to this game tomorrow night at 7, even though it seems like the odds are long for the Canadians to build off their best ever performance in the WBC already.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is setting up us for one of those situations where Canada has no expectations in this game. Obviously, huge underdog. It'd be a real shame if Canada came out on top in what they call America's pastime. I think tomorrow there's a chance I might be calling it Canada's pastime if they find a way to get it done. I'd love to just rub one right back in their faces. It's probably good overall for the competition factor of these things. Obviously, if the U.S. wins, it's kind of expected given the odds and the spread for that game. But yeah, I would love to see Canada get it done. And Huss, what did I tell you about this young Canadian star, Owen Casey, Miami Marlins third prospect? I just checked. He's a 42nd prospect in baseball. He's had a really, really nice tournament, and I hope he and Captain Canada, Josh Naylor, can get it going. It's unfortunate we didn't get a guy like Freddie Freeman on this team for the first advancement. I think he'd be a big piece in the game tomorrow. But, we'll work with what we got and, see what they can get done.
Dominican Republic is an equally large favorite against South Korea. That's the other game that's happening tomorrow. Closer matchups on the other side of the pool. Puerto Rico and Italy going at it 2 o'clock on Saturday. The Puerto Ricans are minus 122. Italy's even money. Got to shout out my guy, the Pasquatch. Kansas City's got a couple guys slugging for the Italy team, but Pasquantino, 3 bombs yesterday in that game against the Mexicans. He's been phenomenal. And then the Japanese are minus 179 against Venezuela in the final quarterfinal game. That is on Saturday night. They'll be off on Sunday, and then the semis are Monday, and the championship game is on Tuesday. And anyone that jumped on with us with our special, we had 2 things. Canada needed to advance. We've got that. And now it's Dominican or Japan to win the whole thing, not the USA. So we've got plenty of reasons to cheer against the US in the WBC. You mentioned we really will get to March Madness, but if you do want to take, kind of get yourself in a better spot to fill out that bracket and bet next week, all the college tournaments, the conference tournaments are on right now. So it is real busy. Now, just before we get to the NHL, you mentioned the golf, and if you jumped in late, I was apoplectic. I mean, Pat and I got in yesterday. We did our Morikawa Oberg top 10 parlay. Colin Morikawa plays 1 hole and then withdraws from the players. And this isn't just some guy in the field, Jake. This was the guy that I believe was the most bet golfer just about everywhere. The players did not start off well for a lot of people with Morikawa tickets. And I know hopefully our guy Ludwig will make it happen, and maybe we can salvage something out of that one that we put together. But I can tell you right now that it is Maverick McNeely leading the way. Justin Thomas, Russell Henley at 4 under, McNeely's 5, Taylor Moore's 4 under through 9. A couple of the other guys that are having big rounds right now, Sahith Theegala and Sepp Straka are both 3 under, still playing their front 9. Now, where was Corey Connors? Corey Connors is -1 after 4, which is a nice start. Sudarshan Yelamaraju, one of the other Canadians that earned his way into the players with a good start to the season, he's just teed off. He's even. And AJ Ewert playing with his fellow Canadian in that final group. He's 1 over. Mac Hughes and Taylor Pendrith, other Canadians in the field, both 2 over par. Nick Taylor 2 over through 6 as well right now. But Jake, we've got a big slate of games in the NHL. Let me ask you this from a betting standpoint. Is there anything that could prevent you from fading your own Toronto Maple Leafs the rest of the way? It seems like, I know we've had a rough season the whole time. It's almost shocking what's happened to the Leafs and the way the bottom's just fallen out in the season.
Yeah, I'd fade them the rest of the way, Huss. I mean, I'm rooting for losses now, right? Like, you get in this dark of a hole, and it's just like, how far can they fall? Because there is a world, where they find their way, into that bottom 5 or whatever it ends up being, depending on how the teams below them perform. And they get their first round pick back this year. And I think that would be, huge, given it would be a top 5 pick. Obviously, if they don't find a way to, for the odds to go in their favor and for things to swing their way, then they're not going to be having their first round pick. And it's, the ultimate disaster season where, the team completely bottoms out and doesn't have their first round pick. And then, what are you looking at ahead of next season? Do they keep Brad Treliving around? I'm not a big fan at this point, given the way the season's gone. I think Craig Berube's all but finished after this season based on the reports I've been seeing, the past week or two. So yeah, it will be interesting, but yeah, it's kind of a free fall all around in Leafland. And the one thing I'm holding on to right now is top 5 protection on that first round pick that was given to Boston in the Fraser Minton deal for Brandon Carlo, I should say. And just hoping they can find a way back into the top 5 to at least get a good draft pick and hopefully start to rebuild the farm here in Toronto.
I'm sure it's revisionist history, but Treliving must absolutely be kicking himself by not working a little harder on that trade protection. I'm sure they did that when they thought that, wow, listen, we're going to be a playoff team. We're going to be competing for the Stanley Cup. This is whatever. But you look at the job that Florida did in the Chicago trade, having that pick top 10 protected. They're very likely going to be in the top 10. They'll get their pick this year, and that'll move down. Where the Leafs are right now, they're in a very dangerous spot of having like the Boston Bruins go to the podium at like 6, 7, 8.
6, yeah.
Which would be a real mess. What is up with Austin Matthews? I just have to ask you. I heard the Overdrive guys talking about this. He has just disappeared. Like, for a guy that has scored so much, like, I'm looking at this game tonight. They're a pick'em with the Anaheim Ducks. And Matthews is still just plus 134. But, man, there's just no juice in that team right now. It just seems like they've kind of shut her down. Like, normally I would say a player of his caliber that has gone this long without scoring, he'd be automatic to have a big game coming up. But I don't know. It's kind of hard to make that case right now if you've watched them play lately.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like they're going through the motions, Huss. Like, there's certain shifts where you're like, oh, wow, there's still some, still some fight in this team, still some talent. And then there's some shifts where they look discombobulated. So, yeah, I mean, what's going on with Austin? I don't know. I think it's just at a point where it's like, this is the type of guy he is. It's like, he knows they're kind of out of it. He's not going to give it his all here late in the season. I don't really want him to give it his all. Really, it's not going to do them any justice at this point, given that, they need that free fall really to keep dropping. Yeah, I mean, with Cowan up there on that top line, it's at times looked really, really impressive. Cowan's looked a lot better here as of late since he was scratched for ever. But Austin's in one of his longest slumps of his career without a goal. I think it's 12 or 13 games, and I don't know if I can just pinpoint a time when he's going to score again. I'm sure it's coming at some point. But, yeah, pretty surprising from a guy who's scored, 2 seasons removed from, 69 goals to have not scored here in 12 or 13. I think he only has 26 goals in the season, 52 points on the season in 59 games. It's been an ugly one, Huss, all around. I'm sure every other fan across the nation and across the U.S. as well is not feeling sad or remorseful for Leaf fans, but we're feeling it here. I mean, it here on our own.
We've had plenty of time to think about underwhelming performances this year, but it's crazy that both teams who were really, really good last year are where they are right now. Let's get to this slate tonight. We got a big slate of games in the National Hockey League this evening. Starting it off with the Sharks in Boston Boston minus 159 favorites. San Jose plus 135. Sabres are minus 208 favorites at home to the Caps. The Canes minus 286 at home to the Blues. Huge game for Bones and the Blue Jackets. Columbus minus 114 in Florida. The Panthers minus 103. The New Jersey Devils minus 189 at home to Calgary. Tampa's minus 217 at home to the Wings. Pick them between the Ducks and Leafs. Oilers are in Dallas. Dallas minus 131. Edmonton plus 112. I kind of like Edmonton tonight in this game. The Oilers had that great win against the Avalanche. Dallas has to lose a game at some point soon. I mean, they have not lost since January in regulation. They have won. It was an overtime or a shootout loss to the Avalanche recently, and they're doing it without Rupee Hintz and without Mikko Rantanen. So I kind of feel like tonight is the Oilers' night to build off that win, and Dallas is due for a loss at some point. Minnesota's minus 217 at home against the Flyers. This Jets-Rangers game, Jets minus 154, Rangers plus 130. Rangers are way better on the road than they are at home. That's what makes me a little nervous about that one. Utah, they need to win, although they do have a nice cushion over Seattle and everyone else chasing them. They're minus 222 at home to the Blackhawks. The Avalanche are minus 208 in Seattle against the Kraken. And then we've got the Nashville Predators taking on the Vancouver Canucks. Nashville is at plus or minus 159. And, Vegas Golden Knights at home against Pittsburgh as well. Vegas minus 154. That entire Pacific Division, with the exception of the Ducks, who've actually been playing well, been a bit of a head scratcher, but I do think Edmonton is coming around. Now, if you go to the combo cards, we have put together a little ride with Huss for tonight. And I was dabbling, as I say, I'm going to get a piece of Edmonton, but we went with four of the bigger favorites tonight. Buffalo over Washington, Minnesota over Philly, Utah over the Blackhawks, and Colorado over the Kraken. Plus 364, boosted to plus 417 in the combo cards. But maybe we put something together with some of these not big favorites for a WST winners parlay tonight. As I mentioned, I don't mind taking a chance with the Edmonton Oilers. What do you think about this Leafs-Ducks game? I mean, is this the Ducks for the taking, Jake? It is basically a pick 'em.
Yeah, listen, I would not bet on the Leafs at any point the rest of this season the way they're playing. So Ducks makes a lot of sense at pretty much a pick 'em there, like you mentioned, Huss.
Pretty nice number. Remis, what do you think about Columbus and Florida? Do we ride with the Blue Jackets in this one for Bones, knowing that Florida's down a bunch of guys and probably not that invested in actually winning games?
Yeah, I think Florida has accepted the reality they're not going to be in the playoffs and they're managing their roster accordingly. Columbus, they're going for it. Bones has got them playing pretty well, so maybe you'd like him to be at home rather on the road, but I would lean Blue Jackets on this one.
Well, and again, coming out of that big win against Tampa on Tuesday night. So, Jake, why don't we do this? Let's get a little group of play up here, just all money line. Edmonton, Anaheim, and the Blue Jackets. I just put that into CoolBet, and it's plus 666. So the number of the beast on this one, but with the boost, that'll be over 7-1. So I think we can get that one in. Again, if you want a little safer, chalkier play, you can go with the ride with Huss, which, as I said, boosted just over around plus 415. But this will be a nice one. And, we put two together on Tuesday, and were it not for Carter Verhaeghe scoring 2 goals in 75 seconds in the last minute and a half of that game against Detroit, it would have been a clean sweep, 7 in a row. So hopefully we can sort of stay hot. Tonight's Super Boost is the Houston Cougars to beat BYU, and our guy Shea Gilgeous-Alexander over 29.5 at plus 134. Lots of hoops action right now, I guess, in the combo cards, the exclusives, the the madness is just around the corner, Jake, and I know you're setting a lot up for the conference finals as well.
Yeah, conference tourney week. It's a heavy dose right now. A lot of quarterfinals going on. Big 12, SEC, Big 10. Yeah, we're gonna get some good matchups probably over the next few days here. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, gear up. We'll have some great games, and then all of a sudden next week we're gonna get the first four on. I believe it'll go Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the first round will start on Thursday. We'll have that big March Madness weekend going Thursday to Sunday. Really exciting time. It's one of the best sports weekends of the year next weekend. So gear up, get ready, and make sure you get your favorite teams in, your favorite bets in.
I think we'll shoot for Tuesday to either do a separate WST winners or do something kind of in the last half hour of the show. Fill out some brackets, make some bets, check some futures with yourself and Pat, who I know is off on the lacrosse beat tonight. We'll see if we can get that up in the combo cards, the one that we just put together. The Ride with Huss is already there, and we'll hope for some good things for the guys that we have remaining playing in the Players. RIP to Colin Morikawa and Colin Morikawa outrights for the 2026 Players Championship. Jake, great stuff as always. Enjoy the games tonight, and we'll talk to you next week to get ready for tip-off for March Madness.
Yeah, and go Canada tomorrow night against the U.S. I'm going to sprinkle the spread, but I got to have a piece of the money line too, just in case.
100%. Plus 105 right now at plus 4.5 runs. And maybe we'll do up something special for that one. Maybe put a Josh Naylor hit in there and, an adjusted line or something like that. We'll worry about that tomorrow on the show. Tonight, let's get some wins on the ice in a massive slate of games in the National Hockey League. Jake, take it easy, pal. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good stuff. There's at Jake Bolan Moss, at CoolBet Canada. Check out what Jake's cooking up with the fellas. And, of course, if you haven't played a CoolBet before, you can use the promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. Busy night in the NHL, Reem. And as we mentioned right off the bat, if you are still hanging on to hope that the Jets can continue to move really into this playoff race, the games that you're going to want to pay attention to tonight. Kraken Avalanche. We'll be pulling for Colorado in that one. That's a 9 p.m. game. Vancouver at home to the Predators. Don't have a lot of faith or hope in Vancouver, but they're going to win a couple games. Maybe tonight could be that night against Nashville. Mammoth aren't really in the mix. They're pretty safe in the 7th spot, but they're taking on the Blackhawks. Of course, we've got Jets Rangers tonight, and the St. Louis Blues are right in that mix. They're in Carolina this evening. LA Kings off tonight, the lone team in that glut of teams outside of the playoffs that are not playing. I did mention the Sharks right off the bat. Sharks are plus 35 in Boston. Got out a lot of screens to keep up with everything tonight in the league, Reem.
Yeah, I got the tablet. I recently got another TV, so I've got like 4 in my basement right now. So what was it, Tuesday night? I had all the games on, plus WBC. It was so awesome.
What's the technique for how you get all the different games on the different TVs? Like, how do those things need to be? Like, you don't have a different cable box for each one.
You don't need cable boxes anymore. It's all on the app, on the whatever you use, Google or Amazon Fire. I have Bell 5 app, and yeah, you can just have them as many as you want in your house. They don't even sell cable boxes anymore. If you sign up, it just connects to the internet with an app. I don't even think they give you hardware. Like, I have a cable box, but I think if you try to sign up now, you can't even.
How do you get a remote control?
You can't even get one. You use that. There's none. I don't think. You just do it on the app. Like, you can't even put in numbers anymore. I don't know that for sure because I still have 2 cable boxes, but I think they're moving away from that, and it's just the app, and you go on the guide and scroll up and down. Kind of sucks a little. Like, I think cable's like better for sports than managing through different apps on a.
I agree.
On a box, but that's the world that we're in. So I'm fired up. I'm fired up here for all these games.
Do you have a call for tonight?
I haven't looked too close. I think the Jets are going to bounce back and win.
That's what I mean. Jets game tonight.
Yeah, like I think that top line, they're not getting shut out 2 games in a row. So, I don't know. You can go, like, player goals. Like, Connor and Scheifele. Connor's plus 126, Scheifele plus 151. I mean, Velarde's plus 250 on top power play to score. Like, you saw those hands the other night in front. Like, I just don't think they're going to get shut out so badly 2 games in a row. And we said their record with 1 day of rest has 18-7 and 8. On 2 days of rest, it's 4-8 and 2. What a stat there. Shout out to the Winnipeg Jets game notes for that one.
They definitely have done a much better job of getting wins in overtime and getting to overtime as of late. They've got 3 overtime wins and a shutout win, and 10 overtime losses, which is a reversal of last year. And that's 6 points left on the table, and they're back by 5. That being said, lots of work to do. Got to get a win tonight if you want to make it interesting heading into the weekend when the Avalanche and Blues are in town. Thank you to Sean Reynolds, Scott Burnside, Sergio and Luisa Castillo, and Jake Bolan Moss for joining us on the program today. Congratulations to our winners of the tickets. Thanks again to, what was it, Big Daddy?
Yeah, so I gave out, I think it was Big, what's his name? Big Bad Mark?
Yeah.
DM me on Instagram a couple days ago and was like, hey, I've got 2 tickets to the next 2 games. Let me just double check. He says, Big Bad Mark, regular listener, 2 tickets to Rangers game and the Avs game. Can you give them away on the channel? So I gave away the tickets to tonight, shows to Garrett Soloway. He won those, accepted them. He's a longtime listener.
Garrett. We'll see you at the game tonight.
Yeah, I saw him in the chat. And then, so we still have tickets for the Avalanche game, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. You can enter. And he said, section 320, center ice. And what else did he say about the show? He said we do an amazing job. That's what he said, Huss. So
thank you very much, Mark. And do we still have the contest up for the Saturday?
Yeah, it's still up. It'll be up till the end of tomorrow's show. So
yeah, so we'll do that. We'll announce a winner tomorrow on the program. So if you do want to get to the game on Saturday, courtesy of Mark, one of our great listeners, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. Get your entry in, and we'll announce a winner on the show tomorrow. That's going to do it for us. Get back to the Players' Championship and this hockey game tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow for a big Friday show. Ken Wee will be amongst our guests joining us on the program. In the meantime, enjoy tonight's game. Have a great one. Thanks again to all the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen each and every day, and all of you for making us a part of yours. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.